أهلا بكم في قناة الأحياء للصف الثالث ثانوي. Today's lecture we will start learning about reproduction in living organisms. So let's begin. Importance of reproduction to organisms. تفتكروا ليه المخلوقات قاعدة بتتكاثر؟ All organisms start, to secure their existence as individuals. They want to secure their existence, and procreate means give off generations. And the reproductive capacities among organisms differs. Means that not all organisms reproduce in the same rate or in the same amount, why? Because there are various, factors in the environment they live in the life nature, and in their actually duration of existence, ages, and their sizes. Okay, that's why the aquatic organisms, الأحياء البحرية, produce much more than their land relatives. أكتر بكتير من العايشين على اليابسة. كمان parasites الطفيليات produce much more progeny than organisms in order to compensate their loss. انتوا شايفين طبعا البكتيريا مالية الدنيا في كل مكان على الكرة الأرضية، معناها إنها ناجحة في أسلوب التكاثر بتاعها. Okay. عموما يعني similarly the production of primitive or short-aged organisms is much more than higher or long-aged organisms. الكائنات اللي هي عمرها قصير بتتكاثر بمعدل أكتر بكتير من الكائنات اللي هي ليها عمر طويل. Okay, methods of reproduction in living organisms. There are ways for production among the species to continue their existence. Two main methods are there, either sexual or asexual. Asexual means non-sexual, not sexual. هنا معناها لأ or not. Asexual reproduction يعني non-sexual reproduction. Well, before we go through this, sexual means, there should be a male and female. Asexual, no. It's only one organism that reproduces asexually. Asexual reproduction is, a body part, either a spore or cells or tissues, become isolated, and the new organism is formed, and the new organism fully resembles the original organism. It's like a copy formed from the original organism. Okay. Of course, because of the environment, the offsprings become exposed to destruction unless the parents had, of course, been adapted for that change to take care of the progeny, to take care of the offspring. And this kind of reproduction, the asexual reproduction, is common in the plant kingdom. Okay, but also limited to some primitive forms of animal kingdom. Okay, the main event in asexual reproduction is mitotic division, not meiotic division. Mitotic division. Mitotic division, a division that conserves the 2n, which is the complete number of the original chromosomes, and not producing the haploid or the 1n or the n organisms. The N organisms, this is in meiosis and occurs in sexual reproduction. Okay, so remember, the main event in asexual reproduction is mitotic division. Okay, types of asexual reproduction. We have binary fission. Binary fission means nucleus divides by mitosis. Then the cell that represents a unicellular organism divides into two cells, and each of the cells become a new individual. Okay, who does this? Many protozoa like amoeba and paramecium, as well as simple algae and bacteria reproduce by this type under suitable conditions. So this kind of reproduction takes place under suitable conditions. Okay? Now, during unsuitable conditions, amoeba, for example, secretes a chitinous coat, a hard coat around its body for protection, and inside this coat, it divides within the coat several times by repeated binary fission. And once the conditions are suitable again, this coat ruptures, and the new the new organisms, the new offspring that because of the repeated binary fission is released into the environment. Okay, liberated from the cyst into the environment. Another type of asexual reproduction is budding, التبرعم يعني. Okay, unicellular organisms like yeast fungus, it produces by budding. The bud arises on the lateral projection of the original cell. Okay, and the nucleus divides mitotically into two nuclei. One of them remains in the mother cell and the other into the bud. Okay, it then grows gradually and may remain connected with the mother till its full growth. Okay, so this is another copy of the mother. Okay, then it separates and continues in connection with the mother cell, forming cellular colonies. In multicellular forms like sponges and hydra, for example, the bud is a cellular protrusion from one side of the body, okay, due to division of its cell and their differentiation into a bud. This grows gradually to resemble the mother entirely and separates to start its independent life. So again, in multicellular organisms such as sponges or hydra, cellular protrusion from one side of the body may be connected to the mother and may be separated and continue its life independent. And also among sponges and hydra, they also reproduce sexually besides their capacity for regeneration. But among these organisms, asexual reproduction it takes place in suitable conditions. The purpose of asexual reproduction is quantity, the amount, but all the offspring is a copy of the mother. But the purpose of the sexual reproduction is diversity, تنوع. عشان كده الاوفسبرينجز ما بيطلعوش كوبي زي المذر، بيطلعوا مختلفين عن المذر. احنا ما فيش حد فينا واحد شبه التاني، كلنا متنوعين. فاهمين؟ So this is the purpose of asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Okay, another type of asexual reproduction is regeneration. It's common among many plants and some animals like sponge and hydra, as well as worms and sea star or the starfish. Okay, they are able to regenerate the lost parts. يعني لما بتفقد طرف بتفقد جزء من جسمها بتقدر تطلعه تاني due to any accident or rupture. Okay, and this capacity of regenerations in lower animal life forms not decreases in higher animals. كل ما تعلى في تصنيف الحيوان كل ما بيقل القدرة على الريجنريشن. اوكي، في بعض القشريات زي اللي هي الكراستيشيانز and amphibians البرمائيات it's limited to restoration of cut parts only. اوكي. في regeneration في الvertebrates. ايوه في regeneration، بس مش regeneration يعني to replace a lost limb or something. لا, it's in the form of healing of wounds, especially those located in the skin, blood vessels, and muscles. This is a type of regeneration. But of course, it's not like the regeneration in lower life forms, in which this life form can replace a limb, for example, replace a part of the body, for example. Okay, now there is a type of water flatworm called planaria. They are able to regenerate even if cut into several transverse or two longitudinal pieces. Imagine. So each part, if you cut the planaria into pieces, each piece will develop into a full-grown planaria. Okay? This is regeneration. Okay, let's talk about the hydra and starfish. The hydra is able to regenerate if it's cut into several transverse pieces. Each part will grow into a new individual, so this occurs in the hydra too. The sea star too, if you cut off a limb with a piece of the central disc, it will grow, the limb will grow again. Okay? Now, if you cut the sea star into many pieces, each piece will grow into a full starfish. And this happened, you know, starfish feeds on pearls, and pearl growers wanted to protect the pearls, so they took out the starfish and cut it into pieces and threw it back into the sea. They didn't know that they are helping the starfish to regenerate. Okay, so they had a problem. Instead of solving the problem, they increased the problem by increase of the amount of starfish regenerated. Okay, sporogony. The sporogony occurs in some primitive plants. Okay, they produce spores, single cells called spores, and these spores they can adapt to harsh environments. Okay, and they are able of direct growth into complete plants. A spore is formed of a cytoplasm, little cytoplasm for the mother organism, and little water, a nucleus, and a thick coat. Okay, when the spore matures, it becomes disseminated into the air. The spore reaches suitable environments, suitable medium, like nutritive media or humid media or suitable temperature media. The coat of the spore rupture and absorbs the water around it and divides several times by mitosis again, because this is asexual reproduction, grows into a new individual. Who does this? Many fungi, as the bread mold, the mushroom, and some algae. Okay? Advantages of spores, reproduction by spores, is quick propagation, large numbers, many spores disseminated into the air, tolerance to hard conditions because they are coated, very well coated, and they can protect themselves from the harsh conditions of the environment, and of course air carries them to distant regions. So the advantages of spore forming: quick propagation, quick process, produces in large numbers, tolerance to hard conditions, and distribution by air into distant regions. Okay, as you can see here. Okay, parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis simply means ability of an egg to develop without being fertilized. Without being fertilized. We all know that the egg must be fertilized, as we know, to produce a progeny. But an egg without fertilization can make an offspring. It's a special kind of asexual reproduction because the progeny comes only from the mother. It's a copy from the mother, of course. Parthenogenesis occurs in number of worms وفي القشريات, crustaceans, and insects في الحشرات. Honeybee also is a known example. Now honeybee, we have the queen, we have the workers, and we have the males. The males, they called drones. These drones are haploid in number. Their cells are haploid in number, 1n. These males, they don't have stingers. They don't work, only to fertilize, their function to fertilize the queen. Okay? And with a special type of food provided later on, drones, fertilize the queen, and the queen becomes fertilized and makes offsprings, and the queen itself and the workers are diploid number. So remember, the male bee, drone bee, is haploid in number, fertilizes the queen, which is diploid in number. Okay? Also, the eggs may result from mitotic division and develops into a diploid number individuals from the beginning, as found in حشرة اسمها الأفid insect. الأفid insect مش عارف اسمها ايه بالعربي. Okay, their eggs can be through mitotic divisions can develop into diploid number. Okay. You can induce parthenogenesis artificially. I mean, you can stimulate an egg to reproduce without being fertilized. How? By stimulating the egg, by activating the egg. For example, if you take an egg of a frog or a sea star and you expose it to heat, electric shock or irradiation, some salts, or picking the egg with a needle, or these are different kinds of stimuli that can activate the egg. These stimuli lead to duplication of the chromosomes, okay, become 2n, and so develop without fertilization to individuals. Okay, and of course, because there are no fertilization, so they are identical copies of the mother. Okay, also they tried this on the embryonic stages of rabbits. Okay, tissue culture. Now, on researches on plants to produce, plants with desired characters, with different characters, like seedless plants or something, decreased size of plants. They do researches on plants, and one famous experiment is experimenting on a carrot by cutting it into small pieces and dipping it into conical flasks containing coconut milk. Of course, the coconut milk here to provide the nutrition for the pieces of carrot. Okay, the pieces began to grow and develop into a full carrot plant later. Okay, similarly, they applied this to tobacco plant, نبات الدخان, and isolated cells of tobacco leaves that has been treated at the same method by dipping them into flasks containing coconut milk. Okay, now one thing proved by these experiments is that any somatic cell in the plant comprises the whole genetic information. ما هو طالما تقدر تطلع full or whole plant من قطعة، يبقى أكيد القطعة دي فيها كل genetic information needed to produce a full-grown plant. مش كده ولا ايه؟ This is logic. Okay, so these experiments confirm that any somatic cell in the plant comprises the whole genetic information. Okay, they do these methods now to propagate rare plants, for example, or desirable strains of, for example, more resistance to disease. Okay, selected tissues for such cultures can be preserved in liquid nitrogen. You can preserve the pieces, by the way, in liquid nitrogen for a long time, and then you experiment on them later. Okay, so we discussed the one type of reproduction, which is the asexual reproduction. I think it's an easy topic once you understand it. I hope you got the maximum benefit from this lecture, and thank you very much for watching.